Hello, Mr. Brown here, your science teacher. Today, let's check out my top 20 favorite organisms. This video is all ages and family friendly, so gather up the whole family and let's explore my top 20 favorites of all time. Coming in at number 20, my old buddy Dunkleosteus. My buddy Dunk used to live during the Devonian period 370 million years ago. And big deal, you ask. It's just a fish. Who cares? Well, it's not just any fish. Let's take a look at what it left behind. A couple interesting things about this armored fish. For one, it doesn't have teeth. That's sharpened bone right there. Those aren't teeth. And for secondly, it has an armored eyeball. This is the only creature I've ever heard of that comes with an armored eyeball. This is what it would have looked like if you were swimming the oceans during the Devonian period. Old Dunkleosteus would devour you in one bite. Here's myself and my son hanging out next to a Dunkleosteus skull. Notice the armored eyeball. Isn't that strange? And here I am nearly being killed by one, but I got away safely. Moving on to number 19, the Trilobite. This is Wisconsin's state fossil. Trilobites evolved back in the Cambrian period over 500 million years ago and lived on the ocean floor. Wait a minute. Ocean floor? Wisconsin doesn't have any oceans, does it? Well, if you go back into the Cambrian period, it does. Take a look at the map here and you can see back then, Wisconsin was actually in the southern hemisphere under a shallow, warm sea. And here is a picture of Wisconsin during that time period, and you would have seen all these little trilobites crawling all around, and they have left their fossil evidence all over Wisconsin. Here you can see an example of a common Wisconsin fossil, the trilobites. Moving on to number 18, Quetzalcoatlus. Quetzalcoatlus was a flying reptile during the Cretaceous period, about 66 million years ago. What's so interesting about this guy? This is the biggest creature that has ever flown. If you were to take one of these Quetzalcoatlus today, it would be comparable to a giraffe. Look at that comparison. How did these guys ever get off the ground and fly? There's still a lot of science that needs to be done, but that's interesting. Moving on to number 17, tardigrades. Water bears, as they're sometimes called. These guys evolved back in the Cambrian, about 500 million years ago, and they're still around today. They're not that difficult to find. All you need to do is go to your local pond, and they'll probably be there. And these guys made an appearance in the movie Ant-Man when in the movie, Ant-Man shrinks down to microscopic size and there's a bunch of tardigrades. What's also interesting and why they made my list is they are nearly indestructible. They can survive extreme heat, extreme cold, lack of water, radiation, acid, pressure, and they've been known to survive the vacuum of space. Not bad, little guys. Moving on to number 16, Indrictotherium. These guys roamed Africa 27 million years ago. They're extinct today, but they are the largest land mammal ever to exist. They are cousins of the rhinoceros, but they are an extreme version of a rhinoceros. You can see a couple rhinos here in the big old Indrictotherium. In fact, the Indrictotherium was so big that if it ran across a fully grown African elephant, it would just step right over him. Excuse me, sir, I'm just going to step right over you. A big creature indeed. Moving on to number 15, let's get some plants on this list. The dragon's blood tree was very common throughout Africa for millions of years. It evolved 20 million years ago, but it went extinct everywhere except one island in the Indian Ocean. It still exists today. How did it get the name dragon's blood tree? Well, when you chop one down, you're confronted with what looks like blood. It's not, it's just tree sap, but boy, does that look strange. In fact, it's so strange that many science fiction movies take place on this island off the coast of Africa because it gives such an otherworldly appearance. Dragon's blood tree. Interesting. All right. Let's go to the Permian period, 240 million years ago, and my old pal Dimetrodon. Look at that guy. Was he a dinosaur? No, this is a reptile that lived many, many millions of years before dinosaurs even evolved. All right. Most notably for Dimetrodon with his sailback, giving him some interesting body temperature abilities. In fact, it's guys like Dimetrodon that sort of pioneered the whole idea of thermal regulation, being able to control your body heat. And that ability passed on to mammals like us. Nice job. Number 13 is a tie between the sperm whale and the giant squid. These guys are both alive today, and they battle daily. In fact, today, somewhere in the world's oceans, there was probably a battle between a hungry sperm whale looking for breakfast and a giant squid refusing to be eaten. This happens all the time, but no one has ever filmed it. This epic battle has never been captured on film. All I have here is an artist's conception of what it must look like as the sperm whale is chewing on this giant squid. We find sperm whale carcasses that wash up on the beach that are filled with scars from these epic battles that must take place, but no one's ever filmed it yet. Moving on to number 12, Titanoboa, the world's largest snake known, living 60 million years ago. This is a real fossil. This snake didn't live off of birds or lizards. This snake went after full-grown crocodiles. Look at this. This is one snake I would not want to have run into 60 million years ago, feasting on crocodiles. We have another plant on our list, the Bristlecone Pine, found in California. It looks like a scraggly old pine tree, but these are some of the longest living plants in the world. These trees you see here are 5,000 years old. When the pyramids of Egypt were being built, these guys were little seedlings, and they still exist today. Here you can see a bristlecone pine in California there, all gnarled and old, but still alive. Nice job. Number 10, the Bacillus lizard. Just a standard ordinary lizard. What's the big deal about this guy? How did he make the list? Well, he can walk on water, or I should say run on water. Kind of an interesting ability to distribute his body weight so well over his toes and run so fast that he can run across water and escape predators. Okay, nice job. Number 9, the snow leopard of Asia. All right, part of the big cat family, endangered. Hope these guys don't go extinct. But besides that, nothing else that remarkable about him. I'm not sure why this guy made the list. I wonder if it has something to do with the cubs. Oh, all right. All right, now I see why this guy made the list. That is adorable. Moving on to number 8, Gigantopithecus. All right, this is obviously a picture from a museum, but they are trying to display what the world's largest primate would have looked like. This thing existed 10,000 years ago. Humans also existed 10,000 years ago, which means humans and Gigantopithecus could have come in contact with one another. Imagine being a primitive human walking through the jungles of Southeast Asia and coming across one of these incredibly huge primates, or maybe even a family group munching on bamboo along the river. Maybe that's why they went extinct. They didn't get along with humans so well. Moving on to number 7 is just a common everyday earthworm, otherwise known as a night crawler. You use them for fishing, right? Except these aren't ordinary. These are giant. There's no way. That's a snake, right? No, no, these are earthworms. They actually get that big. All right, not here in Wisconsin, but in the jungles of South America, you can find some of these earthworms that grow to enormous proportions. Look at that. Incredible. All right, moving on. Number 6, we are back in the Cambrian period with this strange fossil called Hallucigenia. Scientists were confused for a long time as to what this thing is. Which is the head? Which side's the tail? Which way's up? Which way's down? In fact, it wasn't until just a few years ago, with the help of computer three-dimensional technology, that they were actually able to come up with an idea of what this creature would have looked like. This thing went extinct and didn't leave any descendants that are alive today. It's a very unique creature that once lived on Earth. It almost looks like an alien creature, but this is your planet Earth, and creatures like this once existed. Weird. Number 5, the Amazon River dolphin. Most dolphins live in the ocean, in salt water, except this one. This playful little guy lives and has evolved to live in the freshwater of the Amazon River. And he's pink. Okay, so that's kind of cute and interesting. Number 4, the blind cavefish. Wow, what happens when evolution by natural selection gets dark? This fish evolved in dark caves with no light. And after a couple thousand generations, it no longer needed its eyes. Its eyes have become nothing more than just a little remnant or vestigial structure left over from generations before him. No eyes, don't need them if you live in a dark cave. Pretty cool. Number 3, radiolarians. Radiolarians are microscopic and found on beaches throughout the world today. They evolved 500 million years ago, and I don't know what to say about these guys, but they're very odd. They come in thousands of varieties, and studying them is amazing because you just keep finding more and more and more varieties. Found on beaches throughout the world for the last 500 million years. Number 2, mallard duck. Mallard ducks are relative newcomers to North America, having evolved only 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. What makes these guys so special that they show up on our list? Well, they don't fly that good. They don't swim that good, and they walk kind of awkwardly, but they are the most perfect design for doing all 4 of these things. How many creatures do you know that can dive, fly, float, and walk? Think about it. Not too many creatures can do all 4, and its body design is a perfect balance between all 4 modes of transportation. All right. Our last creature, number 1 most interesting organism on the planet, I gotta give it up to Homo sapiens, human beings. Look at that big brain, designing technology, understanding science, and getting all the way to the moon. Nice job, Homo sapiens. You guys deserve the number 1 spot. Thank you for joining me today. This is a list of all of the organisms we went over today. If you'd like, go to the internet or your library and look up more information about them. Thanks for joining me, Mr. Brown, your science teacher, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. See you later.